Good morning. It is a Friday morning and it is Independence Day weekend in America, in USA. It's 4th of July weekend. Hope you have a safe one. Hope you have a weekend where you can spend time with your loved ones, your family, and enjoy some sort of pastime together. I did a search for quotes on independence, right? And oddly enough, the one quote that really stood out for me had nothing to do with like a nation's freedom, right? Not having to do anything with Independence Day. But I thought it was such a great quote that I want to share it. And the quote comes from Stephen Covey. So let's delve into it. It's going to be a very short one today, and I appreciate you. But here's the quote. Every human has four endowments: self awareness, conscience, independent will, and creative imagination. These give us the ultimate human freedom, the power to choose, to respond, to change. I thought that was such a great quote because it encompasses, what it means to be a person. And the two words or three words really that stuck out to me in this quote were ultimate human freedom. What does freedom really mean to you? Especially when you take into account the four endowments that are mentioned in the quote. Again, this is a quote by Stephen Covey. So let's start with the first one: self awareness. Even recently, in the lives that I've been doing, I've been talking about knowing who you are, right? Figuring out what your path in life is going to be. I think the last one I did was uh, living a life worth remembering and being remembered for. And one of the things we talked about was self awareness, like knowing where you are, knowing who you are specifically, to really realize what kind of life you want to live, right? And by live, I mean what kind of life do you want to lead? Are you going to be an influence in somebody's life in a positive way? When I was in radio, and it's funny because just today, I one of the memories that came up on Facebook was 24 years ago when I received a congressional certificate of recognition from Congressman Cuellar for my 20 years in radio. This was back in I guess 20 no, sorry 2019. So in 2019 I received the recognition, but this memory came in from 2012. I said, what am I going to do to start? How am I going to celebrate starting my 24th year in radio, or something to that effect, which was interesting because it turned out to be my final year in radio. So I did 23 and a half years in radio and never finished that 24th year. I never made it to 25 years. I'd been looking at 25 years like a milestone, but life had other plans, right? Things change. There's things out of your control, and kind of like the whole pandemic thing. Nobody expected it, but it happened, and we had to deal with it. So self awareness and living the life you want to live has a lot to do with how you treat other people and what you do in your interactions with them. So what I was talking about in radio is a lot of the times when I had some new personality come in, a new DJ come in, one of the things I'd like to do is try and teach them as much as I could. And some were more adept and more focused on becoming better radio personalities. Now, obviously, I had only a certain amount of knowledge to impart to them, but I also encouraged them to learn more from other people who had done radio for many years as well. I learned from many people. I learned from the people that were in radio before me, Mad Dog, Mark McLean, and Bob Clark, and Kirk Davidson, and Tina Marie, and just people, Debbie Joe, people that were in radio when I first started radio. I learned so the good lessons that I learned and the bad lessons from other people. I tried to impart to the new DJs to try and and help them be the best that they could be, right? So having self-awareness in who you are and what you can contribute and what you can bring into somebody else's life is huge. So that first of the four endowments in the quote by Stephen Covey, self-awareness, that's what it means to me. Conscience. Conscience, I I think the first thing that comes to mind for me with conscience is, how do you feel when you do something? If we're talking about that specifically, it feels good. Especially like, for example, I recently mentioned one of my former coworkers slash protege, Monica, went on to get a job in another state. That feels great, right? I feel that I had a little bit to do with who she became, who she is now in radio, and it feels awesome. Hopefully, if I gave her any bad examples, bad advice, anything, she just did away with her self awareness, right? But if I was able to impart on her some knowledge that was beneficial to her, that makes me feel great. The other side of that is guilt, right? With your conscience, having a guilty conscience. And I mentioned recently as well about being a villain in someone else's story. Like, have you ever been the villain in someone else's life? Whether by choice, which I have done. And I think back and I'm like, man, and you do some self reflection. You're like, wow, that self awareness again. And I feel bad sometimes. And other times I'm like, that was kind of funny, but it is what it is. Again, who you are as a person. But don't get me wrong, I still feel bad on some of the things that I did that at one point seemed maybe innocent, funny, uh, sometimes mean spirited, because that was the vein that my life was going on at the time, or whatever it was. So that conscious is the fertile ground for empathy and for guilt and for joy and for being proud of somebody. So conscience, that's what that means to me on the four endowments. The third one is independent will. I choose, you choose, we choose to do what we decide to do. I chose to do those things. I chose to teach people, try and teach people um, the good things about what I was doing in radio. So choosing what you decide to impart. And I've met people and I've had people in my life, especially in my work journey, who would choose not to share, choose not to help you become a better you, because we're all learning throughout our entire life. Every single thing, every single moment we're alive is a chance at rebirth, as I like to say. Now, some people don't like to help you along your journey, and a lot of people do. So look for the people that are like Mr. Rogers said. I think it was Mr. Rogers said, look for the helpers. So if there's people that are willing to help you become a better you, take advantage of that situation. Take advantage of that opportunity to learn and become a better you. You're going to learn bad lessons. You have to have the self-awareness and the conscience again to decide, is that a good lesson to learn? Is that a good trait I want to have in my personality, in my business personality, in my relationship personality, or my what I bring to relationships or my job or whatever? Is that a good thing to have? Is that a good trait to have, a good quality to have? So having that independent will and to decide who you're going to be, how you're going to be, and how you're going to treat people, and how you're going to change and impact the world. That's a third endowment, independent will. And last but not least, creative imagination. Creativity, for me, boils down to, for me personally, again, is the arts, right? I love to write. I love to do this. I love to edit video. I love to edit audio. I love music. I love nature, things like that. And having that, allowing that to become the ingredients of a creative imagination. For those of you that don't write, and I'm not calling myself a writer, bold letters, capital, nothing like that. No, I just write for fun, and I've written some completed works, and I've written partial works, right? But one of the greatest joys I get is allowing a creation of mine to come alive, or not even allowing it, almost birthing it and allowing it, or watching it take its first breath, so to speak, and say, wow, this is a character. It's almost a fully fleshed out character. And you feel the personality, and you almost start hearing the thoughts that particular personality, that person would have. That's what I, that's what writing, one of the greatest pleasures I have in writing for me. So creative imagination. So going back to the quote, all that combined is what gives us the ultimate human freedom, because that in that combination is the ability to choose who you will be as a human, who you are going to be as a part of humanity, right? The power to choose, okay, choose to do, choose to be, choose to take, choose to give, the power to respond when something happens to you, when somebody treats you a certain way. If they treat you well, if they treat you terribly, how are you going to respond? How are you going to respond to joyful events? How are you going to respond to, detrimental events or sad events or traumatic events? How do you respond? And last but not least, the power to change. If you don't like who you are, what are you going to change to become the person you do want to become? And it goes back to the very beginning, self-awareness. So the quote in its entirety by Stephen Covey: every human has four endowments: self-awareness, conscience, independent will, and creative imagination. These give us the ultimate human freedom, the power to choose, to respond, to change. Excellent quote. Again, I found it because I was looking for quotes on independence, being that it's Independence Day, but it has nothing to do with the nation. It has nothing to do with patriotism, stars and bars, stars and stripes. Nothing about that. But I felt it was a very powerful quote that I wanted to share. So I hope you enjoyed it. And I encourage you to sit with the quote for a minute or two, and the four endowments individually, to see what they mean to you and how they shape you and who you are as a person. Knowledge is power. Imagination is king. Intelligence your weapon. Read a good book today, enrich your mind, and above all, take action. Almost every single thing is incorporated, of the four endowments, is incorporated in that saying for me. Almost. So that was today's talk. I hope you enjoyed it. I don't know if I'll be back on Monday. We are taking a little, enjoying our time together as a family for summer vacation. So we'll see. If I do, I'll see you back on Monday. If not, I'll see you the next time I do another Facebook Live. And I will say this: I've got something going on today that I'll be sharing a little bit later on a separate post. So be on the lookout for that. So until next time, have a fantastic day, and we'll be talking.